Into Malone, low left. Malone had it chopped away by Jordan. Stolen by Jordan. 19 seconds. No timeouts for the Bulls as they work into the front court. All right, it's win or lose. Game 6 for the Bulls. 10 seconds. And with it, of course, the championship. Jordan, 20-footer, head of the key. Good! Chicago by 1. And the Utah Jazz take time.
What a tremendous call that is. As you listen to it back, that was the game winner by Michael Jordan, Game 6 in '98 against Utah, the legendary shot where he keeps his hand up in the air, and the Bulls win their final championship. The late, great Jim Durham on the call here on ESPN Radio. And really, if you just listen to how good that call was, and it just sets it up. Here we go. It's win or lose for the championship now. Just terrific stuff. But at any rate, we use that to set up this conversation with Doug Collins, who's good enough to spend the entire show with us this morning. You coached Michael early in his career. Then you actually coached him at the very end of his career in Washington as well. But you know Jordan as well as anybody does. And we are besieged with notes this morning saying, well, Michael Jordan would never have let what happened last night happen to one of his teams in the finals. With regard to LeBron, fair or not fair? Well,
Michael would have gone down shooting. I will tell you that. I mean, he would have gotten his shots up and he would have stayed aggressive. And I mean, I actually broadcast that game on NBC.
Okay, yeah.
And Jim Durham was the guy who broadcast all my college games. So we always talked about how everything is connected and stuff. To hear JD and how much we all obviously miss him. Michael has a streak in him competitively that I've never seen in anyone before. I mean, he could miss. We were playing in Washington. He missed 11 straight shots and against Minnesota, and I took him out late in the third quarter after he made one. And I said, Michael, I'll give you a little rest here going into the fourth quarter. He said, I just got it going. I said, Michael, you missed 11 of your last 12 shots. He said, I made my last one. You know, that's the way he thinks. What I've always said about Michael is he never feared the consequences of missing. You know, I'm going to take the next one. And, man, did I learn so much from that guy just being around him and the way he approached every game.
But so does that – I'm sorry, but, I mean, so then is the criticism then on some level fair that LeBron didn't go down shooting last night?
As I've said before, they're different personalities. You know, Kobe is more like – Michael. Kobe is going to take 45 shots and not care. That's more of his personality. As I said before, LeBron is more of a guy to bring guys together kind of thing. You know, Michael's big thing, you don't have it going, I've given you your chance, I'm going to win this game. We're going to win this game. And I'll tell you an interesting story about the greatness of Michael Jordan. When I was coaching in Washington, we played the Indiana Pacers, and we were down 25 at the end of the third quarter. And I took Michael out of the game, and I said, look, Michael, I know you think we can still win this game, but we got to play, you know, in 2 nights. And if we make a little run, I'll put you back in the game. Well, we didn't. Well, I found out that after the game was over that he had 8 points in the game, and he broke a streak of like 860-something games in double figures. And so the media was on, you know, how do you think Michael's going to be with this? You know, I said, you know, look, Michael's got championship rings. He's got gold medals. He's got NCAA championships. He's got MVPs. He's not going to care about the 8 points. So he met with the media and agreed. You know, that bus is lonely as a coach when you're sitting there after you've got your head handed to you. So I was sitting on the bus, and actually Michael had hired me. He was the part owner and president GM, hired me to be the coach, and then he came back to play. I'll never forget this moment ever as a coach. That this to me was greatness. He got on the bus and he said, scoot over. And he looked at me and he said, do you think I can still play? And I said, absolutely. That's why I'm here, to be here to help you. He said, you know, to be my coach, you have to believe in me and believe I can still play. And I said, Michael, I believe in you. He said, you did the right thing tonight. You did the right thing tonight. I don't care about the points, but I needed to know that you believe in me. Fast forward, we get on the plane. He has a few cocktails, smokes a couple cigars, all the things you're not supposed to do. Yeah. We get back about 3:30 in the morning in Washington. At 7:30 that morning, he's down in the fitness room with Tim Grover, working out like you can't believe. Now, he's 41 years old. We play the New Jersey Nets the next night. And Michael scores the first 3 times he has the ball. Byron Scott takes a timeout, and Michael comes over and he says, I want the ball right there the rest of the game, and don't take me out till I tell you. And so that's fine by me. So with 2 minutes to go in the game. He gives me the sign like, that's enough. I take him out of the game. He walks over to the bench. I said, Michael, what happened tonight? He said, well, the guy who was guarding me told me his back was hurting. Don't ever tell me you got a problem. He said, I'll make you pay for that. 51 points later. 51 points at age 41. He came back the next game with 46. And he looked at me and he said, I told you I could still play. 97 points. I mean, Mike, I was absolutely blown away at what this guy could do. His mind, how strong it was. I mean, he's playing on one leg. I mean, he had cut his finger, with doing a cigar. He had his finger was bent. He had a bad knee. The competitive will and great. I've never seen anything like it. But that moment when he looked at me and asked me if I still believed in him, I said, "This is the greatest player to play the game, wanting to know if I still believed in him." It was a moment I would never ever forget.
That's amazing. I thought when you told me you scooch over, said you ever pull me when I don't have double digits, I'm going to fire you.
Well, see, I was mad at our PR guy. I was going look, man, you got to let me know what's going on here.
Stats,
come on, you're sitting right behind me here. I'll put him in to get 2 points and get him out of the game. Let me know.
So I guess it's a terrific story, and I grew up in the business covering Jordan in his Chicago days, and so I'm endlessly fascinated by him. So maybe it's an unfair comparison, but does LeBron need to have a little more of that in him? Is it possible? I think
tomorrow LeBron knows it's a defining moment. Great players know that, and he knows that everybody's pointing the finger at him right now. After game one, you got to be more aggressive. You got to shoot more. I mean, he only took 17 shots in game two, but they won the ball game. Now you come out in game three, and you have 15 points on 21 shots. You don't get to the foul line. He showed it last year. He knew when it was on the line last year what he had to do. I expect him tomorrow night to come out, be super aggressive. Now, I don't know what his numbers are going to be, but you know what? When you're going to take that kind of criticism, you're going to step up, I think, Mike, and you're going to do it.
What the difference is, though, you tell me if I'm going down the wrong road here. When it's on the line with Jordan, he shot. When it's on the line with Kobe, he shot. When it's on the line for LeBron, does it necessarily mean he needs to shoot? I mean, there is driving the lane, and he gets criticized for driving the lane and kicking it out to a wide-open guy. Everybody says, you have to take that shot. But does he?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you an example of that. I was broadcasting the Detroit-Cleveland series. It was game two. And LeBron drove the lane, and I think it was a one-point game that Cleveland was down. He drove and kicked the ball to Donyell Marshall, who had two or three whatever threes in the game, made the right play. Donyell Marshall had a wide-open shot and missed it. And everybody, all they talked about was, he's got to take that shot. He's got to take that shot. And he made the right basketball play. Now, do you force the ball up over two or three guys? And if you miss it, and say, well, why don't you throw the ball to the open guy? Remember now, he came back in that series. Cleveland ended up winning 4 straight. He had that stretch where he had 28 straight points.
Yes.
Remember in that game, 5 or whatever?
It was.
And won the game. So I've seen stretches where he'll take over offensively like that. But I think scoring was forced upon him in Cleveland because that's who he had to be. I said before, to me, he's a triple-double guy. But tomorrow night, I think you're going to see him be much more aggressive.
He will need to be a road warrior tomorrow night to keep his team from falling into a 3-run hole. Road warrior with Mike and Mike, brought to you